Good morning. Morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. It is December 30th, 2025. There's a wind advisory outside, and it's a balmy 26 degrees. There's so much going on, as always, right? But I wanted to end the year with much of a bang. And I have a guest today that's probably going to last the entire hour just based on the things that she brings to the table. I'm going to introduce her in a minute. And we'll talk about what it is that's going on in the country as we walk out of 2025 into 2026 and deal with that as we go along. I want to do my morning motivation as I always do, right? So I wrote this some years ago and I added to it this morning as I was looking at what happened this year alone. Oh, 2025, powerful, heartbreaking, energizing, limitless growth, purpose, fire, resilience, determination, grace, anger, disbelief, disappointments, deaths, so many deaths, war, protests, peace, dreams realized, anger deferred, patience, letting go of the need to save others from themselves, embracing that which was mine to experience, growing in the midst of doubt and uncertainty by continuing to walk through the valley without slouching in the death of self pity. I valued my worth and embraced my gifts. I am loved to those I meet, no matter how they present themselves to me. I walk swiftly away from self defeating behaviors and the excuses made by others. Those two things serve to accomplish nothing beyond the 5 seconds it took to manifest itself through the mouths of the complainer. I am comfortable with saying no with zero explanation. People know when they are wrong before they ask or do. I see you. Each year is designed to build upon the year before, and only my actions, thoughtful or otherwise, determines my experiences. May we enter 2026 focused on thriving despite what is presented to us, to crush our dreams and defer our souls. We get what we give. Peace and love. Good morning. Good morning. I am super calm about moving into 2026. I'm not even making a wrong move. I'm taking my time because so much is going on. And as many of you are aware, because you have picked up the phone and called me or sent me messages or all the things that are going along with it, there's a lot happening with so many of you. And so I said to my husband yesterday, we've been quietly, we sat for a couple of hours without the television on, without really talking to one another, and just soaked in the peace because we've spent both of us most of the year just running, trying to help this one, trying to take care of that one, trying to make sure we're okay for ourselves. And so this morning, before we go into tomorrow morning, there she is. Before we go into tomorrow morning, I just wanted to find out from you, what are your plans? You know, we don't do New Year's resolutions over here, but what are your plans for moving into 2026? What are you going to keep? and what are you doing differently, right? Because I want to talk about that tomorrow as we look at the last day of 2025. Well, this lady right here, I gotta let her in. Gotta let her in so we can talk. Let me let her in.
Hi.
My sister.
How are you?
I cannot wait for us to have this conversation.
Did Natasha warn you? You might need a 7-second delay.
No, it's my show. I'm good. So let me get to what we need to do. Let me introduce you. Tracy DeMartini served in the federal government for 22 years and was appointed to the Career Senior Executive Service in September of 2016. She served as the Chief Human Capital Officer for the Equal Employment Opportunity. That's the EEOC, y'all. The
That is
Peace
correct.
Corps, GSA, and the Internal Revenue Service. She has a successful track record improving service delivery and employee engagement at multiple agencies while improving operations and morale across multiple agencies. We need one of her in every agency. Not when Natasha described it to me and said, "Oh, we need one of you everywhere," right? While at the IRS, she led the historical hiring efforts to rebuild that organization workforce, which resulted in the hiring of over 28,000 new employees in 15 months. She's passionate about the need for a non partisan civil service and federal. Ooh, we have a lot to talk about. good, good morning, Tracy.
Good morning. I'm thrilled to be here.
Not as thrilled as I am to have a conversation with you, because okay, let me let me start here. What the hell is going on?
Um, I'm just really grateful that tomorrow is the last day of 2025. We need a rebirth in this nation, and that's why I came home to Philly because here's where it's going to happen.
Mhm.
Um, I think I'm going to choose to look at the next year through a lens of positivity because the fact that we all survived 2025 is really a gift.
It is. It is. I really wanted you on. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to be here, first of all. Because when we began having a discussion, Natasha did a video about retiring and not seeing a plug nickel yet. So I
Right.
began reading some of the articles on your LinkedIn, which kind of gave an idea of hundreds of thousands of people, retiring early. The
Mhm,
federal government is backed up, et cetera, et cetera. Except they're saying they're not hearing from anyone. They're just being left to waffle in the wind.
mhm.
You brought in 28,000 new employees to the IRS as an example,
Right.
Tracy, but the federal government laid off so many of them.
Yes.
So can you give us an idea when you started to see what was going on, because you consider yourself Trump's greatest. Yeah, what was your Monica?
I hope I'm his biggest nightmare as
Yeah,
a career
yes.
employee because I did see what was happening in those early weeks of 2025. And
Mhm,
let me just set the framework for your listeners because as a federal government employee, I truly felt like I had the best job in the world. It was such a privilege to serve no matter what agency I worked for.
mhm,
I was helping to take care of the workforce that was taking care of the mission of that agency.
mhm.
And it is really a workforce that is so underestimated, undervalued, frankly, maligned in the public. It's like, the last group of people that we are allowed to openly mock for no reason other than people do not understand what the government does in their daily life every day,
Right.
providing services, providing protections, providing regulations to make sure companies don't take advantage of the disenfranchised, holding people accountable. These are all good things, and they have somehow been villainized. So, going back to those early days, Andrea, I will say it was clear from day one of this administration, their sole goal was to destroy the federal government from the inside out so then it would mirror their ideology and their false convictions about a government that doesn't work for everyone.
To what end, though, Tracy? Because so many people are suffering. If federal government doesn't work and the services aren't doing what they're supposed to do, what's their end goal?
More money for themselves. So, another example I can provide, early on in the administration, they had something called Doge, which is probably one of the biggest con games in American government history, where we thought people from the private sector and people that were good at technology were somehow going to come in and fix, quote unquote, the government when the government was never really broken. Could it be more efficient? Absolutely. It is not the civil servants' fault that government is inefficient. It is the fault of the people we elect to Congress who are only out for themselves. And the one thing I do hope people walk away from our conversation with is I am not lambasting Republicans. I am lambasting Republicans and Democrats
Democrats.
because both sides are in it solely for themselves. They hire party hacks to put into seasoned government positions once they do assume power, and they completely marginalize the experts in house that can explain to them how things are done, why things are done, and recommendations on how to change them if only someone would listen.
On a certain level, I can agree because things seem to move at the speed of slow and dead.
Yes,
Right? And we would make the assumptions that it was the civil servants, the people who worked in federal government, that were moving at the speed of slow and dead. What you just explained to me are that the people that we elect into office are the ones who are causing this issue. And and I don't want to put words in your mouth, they pretend as if they're fighting each other when truly they're on the same level in many ways. That's
that
what
is
I
correct.
thought. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And let me give you a real time example. I had the privilege of serving under President Biden, and he came in and said he was going to be the most union friendly president ever. And I am a very pro union, pro worker employee. I just believe that the workforce is what bring success to the whether it be private sector, public sector, nonprofit.
Mhm.
If you take care of your workers, they're going to take care of the people you
Mhm.
serve in the mission. And we had 4 years under President Biden to really try and strengthen civil service protections. We wanted to increase telework because then we were able to have a more geographically diverse federal workforce that truly represented America. We wanted to see people understand why places like the IRS, which is constantly maligned, right? The IRS is actually the agency that funds the United States of America. So when people pay their taxes, they are supporting America because we are reinvesting into our country. But both sides of the aisle have made places like the IRS or even the EEOC so politicized, it takes away and undermines the mission and the message of what the agency did. I don't think if you were to ask anyone on the street, should we have an agency that protects people from sexual, racial, religious persecution? That's what the EEOC does. It just makes
Mhm.
sure there's a level playing field. And I think most Americans would say, yes, we need to have those checks and balances because right now we're living in a time where we are seeing no guardrails and it's
Oh, no.
scary and it feels awful. And I think people are now understanding this is why we need diversity of thought, diversity of experience inside the federal government, but frankly, everywhere in America to
Mhm.
make sure that we're really elevating the best of the best.
So with them gutting the EEOC, did they gut the IRS too?
They gutted the IRS. I'm going to be very surprised if we are able to have a 2026 tax season that doesn't have any major bumps. So, first off, need to tell your listeners you still have to file your taxes.
Mhm.
You still got to file your taxes this year, but there will probably be longer wait times for refunds. Probably be very difficult to get someone on the phone. Most likely, a lot of the tax clinics that are run may not happen because the goal of this administration was to come in and do absolute harm to the Internal Revenue Service in hopes that it would cripple us. And the one thing I can say about IRS employees is they are incredibly resilient and dedicated. They always find a way to make tax season happen.
Yeah.
And this is really going to test their strength in 2026.
How far behind are they? Because they were saying that they were behind a few years. How far behind are they?
So, the IRS did an incredible job during COVID. People often forget that was the agency that was also in charge of sending out the COVID relief checks while
Yes.
also having a tax season. So
Mhm.
they were very far behind in processing refunds and processing paper checks. By the time I left in March 3rd of this year, we had really come out of that hole because we had done such extensive hiring. We had also done a lot of investments in information technology and digitalization. We are now probably more behind than we were in 2022, simply because there was massive brain drain, but also all of the probationary people we hired to be the pipeline, to be the next generation of revenue agents and officers and customer service experts and IT experts, they were all terminated for no rhyme or reason in the very beginning of this administration. So we not only got rid of all of our experts that had 30, 40 years into the agency and knew how things worked, we got rid of the next generation of people that were going to take over.
And so, to what end? Is it to protect a particular group of people?
Yes, there's no doubt in my mind. This country wants to protect its millionaires and billionaires. They also believe, I think falsely, that the government should be run like a business. The government is not a business, it is not a for profit entity. It is always going to run based on the laws that are passed by Congress and follow regulations, because the intent of the federal government is to serve everyone, no matter where you live, no matter how much money you make. It provides services to all citizens. And again, I think both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, have gotten into bed with big tech. They get into bed with anyone that has money to donate to campaigns, and they have completely forgotten that they are there to serve the American public.
Yeah, yeah. Whew. So, what does this mean for all the federal workers now that have been forced
Traumatized.
into early retirement? Say that
Yeah.
again.
Traumatized.
I'm
Traumatized.
like literally traumatized, truly.
Yeah.
I'm hearing talks of mortgages that are houses are being foreclosed. People have not had a nickel in months. They're trying to figure out other ways. For those of us who are on the other side of this, who are not in the federal government, but are trying to get services accomplished, and that's not happening. We're all feeling completely out in the open, bare naked and stripped raw by the end of 2025.
Yeah.
Did you see this coming? Because
Absolutely. Anyone that was a skilled human capital professional would have seen the tsunami ahead of us in terms of when you move fast simply because you want to move fast and break things, there's always going to be repercussions. Now, that doesn't mean that there are not things that should be changed in government. I want to just say that full stop. There are lots of smart, talented civil servants that have experience that could explain where we could cut fat or where we could streamline.
right,
Unfortunately, no one listens to us because we are not in the elected seats. We are there to guide and to provide sound advice to whoever is elected. When they choose to ignore us, that's when we know a crisis is going to happen.
yes,
So when you walk in the door, first off, when you walk in the door on January 20th, like Trump did, and you allow your senior level political people to say openly that your sole objective is to traumatize and put fear into the civil service, how is that permissible? How are people voting for, in this instance, it was a man named Russell Vogt, who's head of the Office of Management and Budget. How was he allowed to be confirmed? I think this just plays into the history, Andrea, of for over 100 years, America has decided that they will punch downwards on the workforce, and it's acceptable to punish people that don't have power. And that's exactly what happened this year.
but they can't exist without us.
They can't
Or
exist without us. And we're spending a lot of time. Nothing makes me angrier. Frankly, it makes me sad, but it makes me angrier when people contact me and say, I went to my elected official and asked for help and got either a form letter or was ignored. The same thing happened to me. I mean, I live in Philadelphia and I could not be happier to be back home
mhm,
in a city that is run by a strong, vibrant, intelligent mayor, and we have great congressional leadership. I submitted a request to my congressional representative, and I still have not heard back. And
was
I
it
could not have been more direct about my rank in the government, why I moved back to Philadelphia, what happened to me. And I said, I would like to come in and tell you the story. And I want you to ask these questions of the IRS and
mm,
other agencies.
mhm.
And it's crickets.
How long
And
ago
I
did you do
get it.
this?
I did it before Thanksgiving. Mhm. Because I am one of those people that separated from service. I retired effective September 30th. And like Natasha and like thousands of others, I have not received any notice on when my retirement checks might start to come in. My health insurance is in limbo because there's no check to take premiums out of.
Right?
I have not received my lump sum payment for my unused leave balances, which so many people were banking on that check to tie them over until retirements were processed. So I don't think people that aren't impacted truly understand. And let me just say this also, people in the government never cheer when we see high employment rates or we see companies treating their employees in a way that is substandard. I cannot understand how we have become so callous as a country. There are Americans that are openly cheering federal employees losing their jobs. I mean, that is the sign, in my opinion, of a very sick society. We've lost our way.
And we have. So, in your estimation, based on what you have experienced as a high-level functioning executive in the federal government in several agencies, what's going to happen to us in 2020? What do we have to look for? Now, I want you to be honest. Take the band-aid off. I want to
Sure.
know if I'm crazy or if what I think is about to happen is going to happen. I felt like 2025 was just the setting the stage, so to speak, right? With all the
Right.
gutting of the employees, etc. What are we to expect now in 2026 based on your estimation?
I hope in 2026 we see a full on revolution from the ground up. Meaning, I hope every American, every citizen understands they hold the power of the purse. You hear about boycotts of companies that have terrible hiring practices or terrible investment practices. We need to keep that up. We need to keep holding our elected officials accountable.
They're not
You
listening
know,
to us, though, Tracy.
I know, but that's why then what you need to do is vote them out. We have a midterm year coming up. I think we should
Hmm.
have a wholesale turnover. And that
Hmm.
includes people that you may have voted for years that have just become accustomed and taken advantage of your
Hmm.
support. Hold them accountable. Make them do their jobs. I laugh when I hear people talk about federal employees are lazy. Not in the civil service, maybe in the legislative branch where they only seem to work a handful of days a year and then
Hmm.
recess when they don't want to do the hard business of the people. Vote them all out.
Hmm.
And keep speaking truth to power. Get your sources of news from really unbiased places like
Yes.
National Public Radio and
Yes.
you know listen to all sides and make informed decisions. Don't just be
Hmm.
knee jerk, because again, people assume so many things. They assume federal employees are part of a deep state. They assume federal employees are knee jerk Democrats. I will tell you, first and foremost, as a civil servant, there is no deep state. We hate both sides of the political leadership
Yeah.
because they think they are smarter than the average American. They think they know better. They think they want to do what's going to line their pockets the fastest and keep them, really aligned with big business. And
Yeah.
that needs to stop.
We saw this year so many women getting laid off. What do you think is the impetus behind that?
Well, I will say, I believe that one of the reasons why I was one of the first to be let go and why so many other people that are women were let go is because we have bigger balls than most of the men representing us in Congress and
You
most
are
of the
not
male
playing.
leaders.
You
I'm
are
not
not.
playing. I tell everyone I am 52 years old. I'm a single mother and I'm in the middle of menopause. I
Yeah.
have nothing left to care about other than making America even better than it was in the past and making it realize its fruition. I
Yeah.
have a 22-year-old daughter who just graduated from Temple this spring. I
Mhm.
could not be prouder of her and her friends. They
Mhm.
are really looking at this world and saying, what can we do to fix it?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I do believe that this was a calculated attempt to put women back into their place. We saw it during COVID when working moms took the hit of having to do double duty, training,
Yes.
taking care of business literally online and also raising kids next to them that were going to school online. And we
Yes.
wonder why women are having to make choices that we fought for so many years to ensure they wouldn't have to make because we wanted to see a more inclusive workforce. So I really do believe 2026 should be and could be the year of the woman. And I do believe it's time for us to take that power back because if we're going to wait for anyone to save us, any woman that's on the line understands we are really good at saving ourselves and we need to just step in and get it done right. And that's why I truly believe the person that's going to save the world will be a single mother because we do everything on time and very well.
Because we have no choice.
Exactly.
Have no choice. How do you I've spoken to so many women who feel defeated, but I've also spoken to quite a few who are like, well, I can still go on vacation. Let's have a conversation about that. You're
Okay.
watching this chasm, you know, all these people have lost their jobs and are trying to figure it out. But then there's other group of people that are like, well, I've still got my job and you still get my hair. What is the message you want? Because it's now become a class war,
Exactly.
as you said to me yesterday. Let's
Yep.
talk a little bit about that.
I think that people that feel like they're not seeing an impact in their daily lives, so nothing must be happening that's really bad,
Mm,
really need a reality check. The fact is, there's a great quote I've seen that I love. It says, "We all have more in common with someone that is homeless than we do with a billionaire. We are just all a few paychecks away from some sort of financial disaster, whether it be medical bills, a housing crisis, any job. No job in America is safe. And whether you're public sector, private sector, one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is when the government downsized so fast, so drastically, and without any real intentionality, it not only impacted over 300,000 federal civil servants, it impacted the contracting communities that were
yep.
dependent on contracts that Doge came in and woefully just decided to cut because they didn't
Mhm.
like them. No rhyme or reason, just didn't like them. It impacts the mom and pop stores around those agencies that rely on the workforce for things like dry cleaning and going out to lunch and maybe happy hours. There is a ripple effect. So just because the ripple hasn't been felt yet by everyone doesn't mean it's not coming. And I
Mhm.
also really believe it's our duty whenever you hear someone say, I'm out of work, our first instinct should be, how can I help you? Do you need a referral? How can I connect you to places that will put you in where opportunities are? Another great quote I like came from Network, which was the organization that did Nuns on the Bus. And there was a woman named Sister Simone Campbell and that led that effort back in 2012. And she said, equality, prosperity, these are not pies where there's a finite number of pieces. It's actually the opposite. The more we invest to ensure that our neighbors have the chance for economic viability or for the chance to achieve a job that you've heard about that maybe isn't a good fit for you, but you could
Mhm.
pass it along,
Mhm.
that just multiplies and increases our prosperity as a nation. We do not have to live in this Hunger Games mentality
Which is
where
wrong.
it's just, if I help you, then I'm somehow hurting myself.
Mhm. Mhm. Alexandra said this. She worked for a hospital system and got laid off. She says she believes they want to put white women back home to make babies and deconstruct the Black economic infrastructure. What do you say to that? Do
I
you believe
think
there's
she's
some
right.
validity
I
to it?
think there's also a lot, again, since we're having a conversation among friends, white women need to get their act together. I really believe that white and Black women need to show that unity to uplift each other because, again, no one's going to come and save us.
Yeah.
So, after Kamala Harris was defeated, I was sad once again
Mhm.
to see,
Mhm.
just like we did in 2016, most women
Mhm.
did not vote for their best interests. They voted
Mhm.
for someone they thought would take care of them. And all I want to do is sit back with a cup of coffee and say, how's that working out for you?
For you.
Because you just have to look at what is happening in the country to realize this is definitely still a man's game. It still is a rich white man's game. And we need to make sure people understand, first off, that not all white men are the enemy.
Yeah.
But also there are still plenty that are,
Mhm.
and they should be held accountable. And there's that adage that says you'll keep making the same mistakes over and over until you
Mhm.
learn. Maybe this is what the country needed to shock us back into some common sense.
Oh, I have so many questions in my head. So,
Yeah.
wow. In 2020, 2024, when Kamala Harris lost, and I sat with a group of my friends, I had white liberal friends who said, well, we have three branches of government. And Black women who said the same thing too. We have
Mhm.
three branches of government. And I keep saying this. I've been saying this all year long. Because I kept saying, do you not understand these people don't give a damn about the three branches of government? They don't care. By the time you file the paperwork, this is how the slow and dead. By the time you file the paperwork and move it up the chain, they've already done 50 things to destroy our morale, destroy our communities, destroy you name the thing. But they were like, I just don't believe I'm fine. I am fine, so we're all going to be fine. I had one white woman said to me, and I love her dearly. She said to me the other day, last year at this time, I thought your ass was crazy. When you were telling me blah, blah, blah. But she said, this year, I owe you an apology.
Mhm.
She said, because I never thought in my lifetime. She said, if we listen to Black women more, we'd be more ahead of the game, but we don't listen to you because for whatever the reason. And she says, now here we are. I'm concerned about my grandchildren. I'm concerned about our children that are saying, I have young children, 30, 29, 30. And they're like, we're not having children. My youngest son, like, no, we're not having children. So you're
Right.
seeing the opposite of what they were intending to have happen go down the drain.
Right.
What are your young people saying? And how are you dealing as a white woman yourself? If you
Mhm.
identify as white, I don't know, because
Mhm.
I don't know. What are your friends saying that you're talking to
Yeah.
about all of this?
So I will start with my daughter, who I am so blessed to have such a great relationship with. We
Mhm.
now, are finally living in the same city again, and I'm constantly asking her, "What are your friends thinking? What do you
Yes.
talk about?" And a couple of things she says to me give me a lot of hope.
Okay.
Um, first she says to me, "Mom, you have to realize we grew up in a time where I really, I don't even think twice about what someone's race is or how they identify gender or who
Right.
they're dating." She's like, "So I don't know why you all waste so much time." She goes, "I just want to know whether someone's a jerk or not." And I'm like, "Thank God, maybe this will be the generation that
Yeah.
gets it right."
Yeah.
But they also do have, I think, in their mindset, these fears that they're not going to have a life as good as their grandparents or their parents because their economic stability has been shattered right before their eyes. They're looking at how the world operates in terms of opportunities, and they're
Yes.
putting far too much time, I think, on learning how to network than actually learning skills because they realize it is who you know and not what you know.
Oh, yeah.
And they really are trying to figure out what will the world be when I grow up? Because a lot of them are faced with some pretty big challenges and existential crises, I think, on a daily basis that we created and we're passing off to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. What about your peers? What is the conversation that you're having with them?
So I am part of Generation X, and I
Me
think
too.
that are you okay? So, I think that our generation growing up in the 70s and 80s has
Mhm.
really it's prepared us for this time. We're
Mhm.
used to really exceeding expectations and being underestimated.
Mhm.
I think we have a lot of grit, and I think it's time for us to step up and lead. Because another thing I should mention that I hate hearing about is yes, we need to turn over Congress and turn over businesses to the next generation of leaders. That doesn't mean 30 and 40-year-olds. There's
Right.
a whole class of people in their 50s and early 60s that are ready to take the mantle,
Mhm.
and I think in 2026, it should be our time to rally and shine.
Mhm.
We are all facing at least probably another 15 to 20 years of work ahead of us
Yes.
because we just have to do it for economic survival.
Yeah.
We have years of experience to draw on. And I'm hoping if we can remember and reflect on the mistakes of those before us, we
Mhm.
will not be doomed to repeat those mistakes, and
Mhm.
it's gonna have, again, to be done in a way of very strong intentionality
Mhm.
and also in allyship. So you asked, I don't identify as white, I identify as Italian American. I love it. People don't know how to figure me out, right? But I will say, I can see on all sides,
Yeah.
we have to come together
Yeah.
and we have to understand that we are going to be stronger as a whole. There's nothing that should prevent us from speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
If we know what we're doing is right, we should back each other up.
Where did you get your fearlessness from? Your bravery, your chutzpah? Where did it come from?
Thank you for that is such a nice way to what I call just blatant stupidity. I just realized I just don't care. I have to go to
Yes.
bed at night and be able to
Mhm.
sleep. So when I
Mhm.
lost my job in March, I was heartbroken. I loved that job. I was more heartbroken at leaving my staff behind because I knew no one would be there to back them up.
Yes.
But I realized somewhere along the way in my 52 years, I would rather do what is right than to do what is popular or what is easiest because I just don't know why. Maybe it's the 12 years of Catholic schooling, where you're just really indoctrinated with social justice and that need to speak out when things aren't
Mhm.
right and to provide a solution, right?
Mhm.
Because you can't just say, I'm not doing that. You have to say, here's a smarter way to do it that's less
Yes.
harmful,
Yeah.
that's less, less reactionary. Let's
Yeah.
get you where you want to go, but in a way that still is humane.
Mhm. Dennis says, Tracy, what is your plan moving forward for success? What does that look like for you?
So I am so excited to be back in Philadelphia. I'm hoping I can find, a place in a community in the city that would value someone that has a commitment to public service and wants to do good. I think this is the greatest city in the world. I'm thrilled to be here for the 250th anniversary.
Mhm.
I'm definitely thrilled to be here and will be at the next Eagles Super Bowl parade, hopefully,
I
God
know your
willing.
thing said, "Go Birds." I
Go
laughed
Birds.
at your bio.
And I'm really hoping to find that community at the local government or local,
Mhm.
the city level to
Mhm.
really um, begin the change at home. I think cities like Philadelphia, which are so rich and vibrant in diversity and have a long
Mhm.
history, we can model what it will be like to be the best city in the country, and people should just
Mhm.
follow our lead.
Yeah. Dolores says, destroy, destroy, destroy. The inner city is very troubled. The youth, they have to start putting their pennies together at birth. It's been incredibly difficult. We have been having dialogue with our children.
Mhm.
So, Generation X, having
Mhm.
dialogue with our children about, you know, what to do if you're laid off from your job,
Mhm.
that our homes are a sacred place for you to come home to. If we're all piled up in here, just to make sure that we're okay
Right.
in the moment. We need to get back to speaking to, working with each other. To your point, allyship, it's incredibly important, but we've been so siloed,
Yes.
Tracy. We've been so incredibly siloed, and this platform is one where we don't just have dialogue for the sake of having it. We're really intentional about how do we pull these things together? What are the solutions? How do we support one another? Wow. So you believe 2026 is the year of the woman, that
Year
we're
of the
going
Woman, the Year of the Eagles, and frankly, the year of rebirth. I think this
yeah.
is now a time for us to use everything we learned in 2025, but also the years before, to figure out what works best for us as a country, as a community. I like what you're saying about the silos. I mean, I don't like the silos, but you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. We
Mhm.
have played into this narrative that
Mhm.
if we don't look out for ourselves, no one else will. And that's a really depressing place to start from.
Yeah, it is. Marguerite says, "Do you think you will run for local office?"
I don't think I would ever run for local office
Mhm.
because, frankly, I hate politicians, but I would be a really good chief of staff to one to keep them
Yes.
honest.
Yes.
What my real pride is, my real goal is once there are midterm elections and once there's another change in administration, I want the next generation of leaders to call on the civil servants that were treated so horribly to actually come back and ask us, what can we do to make sure this never happens again?
Yeah.
Because again, I really truly believe I worked for both Democrats and Republicans,
Mhm.
and I can tell you they are all out for themselves. And they truly need to understand that they work for us and not the other way around.
But how do we shift that when the lobbyists are very present
Lobbyists
amongst
are
them?
present, yep.
They're
Money
getting
is
money.
present.
There
Mhm.
you go. Right? They're getting a certain amount of money from different groups of people who are then looking for the favors to be returned. Is it possible for us to return politics to the way it should be so
Mhm.
that the people get what they need versus what's happening now?
I think there is. I think that, again, people have to be intentional and wanna do it that way. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna be a real nerd for a minute and talk about something that really I'm passionate about. So, um, I love hiring people, I love developing people, I love seeing people succeed. I just think it's such a privilege to be there, and you're giving someone the opportunity to become economically independent.
Hmm.
Um, I see so many people that come in from both sides, Democrats and Republicans, that hire absolute hacks into really critical federal jobs. And I think we need laws on the books that say federal HR experts will evaluate resumes and make sure people are actually qualified for the jobs that they're going into. I mean, I feel like we're on a national TV show, the version of Punked, the American edition, because look at some of the people serving as secretaries of our largest departments. These people aren't even, they're not qualified to even be, I don't even know. I don't
Right.
know what any of them are qualified for other than being trust fund babies. I mean, they really don't have any idea what public service is.
Hmm.
They have no idea that millions and millions of people are relying on them to make right decisions and not political decisions. So I do think there are ways and laws we can influence, but there has to
Hmm.
be an appetite for it because right now both sides are benefiting from the absolute lawlessness and lack of guardrails.
That's insane. Alexandra says, have you thought about doing consulting work as your pivot? Your expertise would be valuable to both private and government sectors.
I would love to do some consulting work. I'm doing a little bit now to tide me over until I figure out my next big adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, my big passion is leading teams. I love leading teams. I love working in places where people say, that's got to be the worst job in the world, and showing why it's not.
Yeah.
The IRS was such a privilege to lead their human capital office, and I'm so sad that that opportunity was cut short because we had so many other accomplishments ahead of us, which is
Mhm.
why I really want to take my talents into local government or even an organization like SEPTA, where
Mhm.
I know they're getting a bad rap, but it's
Mhm.
not the employee's fault. The employees need to
Mhm.
be uplifted and elevated and
Yeah.
shown, why their work matters instead of constantly being denigrated. And so
Yeah.
I'm really looking for those opportunities to improve the lives of people at the local level.
Yeah. I've had conversations with folks who work with SEPTA. You're absolutely right. It's not the people that work within the organization, but no one hears them. And when
Mhm.
someone steps in to give them a voice, that person is punished or let go. So
Mhm.
again, Sharon says nepotism is real though. Trying to change
Right.
that culture will be difficult. I'm living with that in my union.
So Sharon, I have to say, I love that you are a member of a union. I think hopefully the other thing that people learned from this year is unions have power. If we weren't so powerful, people wouldn't try and silence us.
Hmm.
But on the other side, I think unions also, right? They have their own structural issues they need to deal with.
Hmm.
I am again very proud pro union, but the building trades, for example, were inherently racist and sexist for generations,
Hmm.
and they are now understanding, I think, and realizing that the larger they make their tent, the stronger they will be.
Hmm.
And hopefully that is what we can continue to move towards. I know we're not going to get to a perfect union, but I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't fight to make it better. So we may not eradicate nepotism totally, but you'll be damn sure I'm going to call it out every time I see it.
Right. Let's talk about the fact that this president is leading us into war.
Mhm.
There is Israel, there is the Ukraine, there is Venezuela. Trinidad and Tobago has jumped into it. You're talking about a turnover in government when there is a thought that this president does not want to turn over in government and is heading to war so that we can sit right where we are. He declares war, he can say we don't have to have an election.
Right.
What are your thoughts around that? Because do you see it, or do you believe that we'll have a shift sooner rather than later here in our country?
Um, so I again, even even with the year that we've all had, and it hit me personally hard and
Mhm.
professionally, I still am an eternal optimist. I am really hoping that now we're closing in on the 1 year mark of his first year in office. Maybe people now will start realizing there is no end to his stupidity and cruelty and just no holds barred idiocy. Someone somewhere has to be paying attention, whether it be invoking the 25th Amendment to realize this man does not have the mental faculties to serve as the commander in chief, to our military having to openly be told by former military people, you don't have to accept an unlawful order. I think we are getting to that point now where people will be more prepared to speak out. And I just am hoping that it doesn't get to the point where we're creating a war as a distraction tool. So one megalomaniac can continue on his path of destruction.
Is it just one though? It
No,
feels
it
like there's
is a
a whole
group.
group
It
behind
is a
him.
group.
Yes.
Yeah. I do think though the loudest voice in the room gets all the attention. And, that just cannot go on forever. The other thing I will say is we should never shy away from accountability, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when the dust finally settles, I don't want to see what happened in 1975 when President Ford pardoned Richard Nixon and said, I'm
Mhm.
just going to put this national nightmare behind us. We need to have hearings, we need to have outcomes. So, to your point, everyone that has been surrounded by this, that the president has surrounded himself with, they should be barred from ever being in federal office ever again, whether elected or unelected. They should also be barred from ever taking federal contracting money. Look at someone like Elon Musk, who has made millions upon millions of dollars off the federal government. And then he wants to also lambaste the federal government. So if you can't support your country at every level, you should not be allowed to take the benefits that it offers.
Yeah. And immigrants. What are your thoughts around that?
The more the merrier. I mean, literally, why are people so pressed about individuals wanting to come to what used to be the greatest country in the world? There's room for everyone. There is a lot of labor in this country that is not getting done because we have terrorized the immigrant community. There are generations of children that were born here who are living in fear that they'll come home from school one day and their
And
parents
parents will
won't
be
be there.
gone. Mm.
I think there's something inherently wrong with a nation that was built by immigrants and that was founded by people that came to a land that was not theirs,
Mhm.
trying to take some sort of false moral high road that we know who deserves to be here and who doesn't. I don't know about you, but if I was a young mother walking thousands of miles to get to America, obviously there's something very wrong in my country that I'm trying to escape. So why aren't we welcoming people with open arms,
Yeah.
and having some sort of program that will allow them to get full employment and full benefits and to pay into the system? Again, that's another category of people we have termed other, until they realize it impacts them.
Yeah. Yeah. Who? What is the scuttlebutt that you're hearing now around federal employees in particular, since that's where you were, who have lost their jobs and are trying to figure it out? How are they managing? And what advice do you have for them?
So first off, for everyone that served that lost their job this year, and I even call it a forced retirement or forced resignation, because let's make no mistake about it, they were terrorizing people and scaring them into voluntarily giving up their jobs.
Mhm.
I would say that you need to keep using your voice. Your service mattered. And first off, be very proud of all your accomplishments. Secondly, use your voice. Keep calling Congress. Keep records, the emails. Keep track of everything, because eventually the tides will turn. And again, I don't want people just to forget about this chapter. We need to learn from it and course correct and build on it. So, for example, my congressman, he's a great congressman in Philadelphia, and he's going to retire next year. You can
Mhm.
bet and believe I'll be emailing his office right when the new year hits, and may even walk over there because I want to know, what are you doing? What is the point of having constituent services if you're not being responsive?
Mhm.
And maybe it's because, again, people that are in these jobs are party hacks and they need to understand, no, your role is to actually provide constituent services. And the third thing I would say to fellow feds is, remember, the nonpartisan civil service is what makes us strong. So when we do get back to having to restaff and reskill and upskill the workforce, share your voice. What you can do from the outside is powerful too. So refer people to federal jobs. Talk about your experiences. Talk about what would have made it better, whether it be better infrastructure, more training, fewer layers of management. You can ask any civil servant, current or former, and they will give you a list of 10, 20 ideas right off the top of their head on things that could be done to improve government. The problem is no one listens because they don't gel with what the elected officials want to hear. So we need to just keep speaking truth to power and never, ever lose your sense of humor.
Phew. My God. Marguerite says, "How can platforms similar to mine help you to your next adventure?" Now, I am thinking about a couple of people I want to introduce you to,
Sure.
because those people with your voice and theirs could really run an amazing company that leads teams and try to get folks. I don't think the politicians are ever going to, right, especially right now, move
Right.
and fix and change. But folks like people that in like huge banks, that kind of stuff, where you can go in and lead teams into making a better decisions for us as a people. That is important. Is there a level of desperation? Have you felt the level of desperation so many people have felt this year?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, yes. I mean, if you had called and asked me to do your show 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said no because I went through like a 2-week crying jag about what happened this year. I think the key to it though is remembering that we're not alone
Yeah.
and, eventually the tides will turn. So you wanna be ready for it. Um, I really I can't think of another way to say it other than I loved my job. I was really good at it. I was passionate about it. I loved getting up for work each day. And while it's okay, I will mourn that that chapter's over. I'm
Hmm.
going to take that same energy and passion into my next opportunity
Hmm.
and figure out what can I do at the local level, in my city, at the state level, too. But you just want to make sure that you don't lose your spark. They can steal a lot of things from us. They'll never steal my joy.
Tracy, I have to tell you, as someone who does this work in media, the media landscape, the what you just discussed is some of the same things that we go through. Our voices are being censored.
Yep.
Like you're speaking hope and joy, and you're the eternal optimist. What we're experiencing, though, is saying we're going into a dark phase in this country. And yes, we're going to come out of it. Some of us will make it, some of us will not. Let's be just as transparent as we
That's
possibly
right.
can. But when our voices are being censored, when the news stations are being gobbled up by one or two
Right.
people, when we're told you can't say this or you can't do that, when you're speaking and all of a sudden your entire broadcast goes silent and then your thing gets shut down, it's hard to, yes, we're going to stay optimistic, but it's hard in the moment. And that is what I want to say to people. I see you, I
Yes,
feel you, I hear you. I want you to know that this it will pass, but it's like passing a kidney stone.
it
We're
is.
going to feel the pain of this, right? And those of us who are willing to boldly and bravely stand in the gap and say what we know to be true will be punished.
Absolutely. No, that is true, and that is something you have to get comfortable with, because I also think there's another impact that we need to talk about what this year brought us, and this happened to me when I was, walked out of the IRS in March. It's about those that stand beside you, but also those that you watch that fold like a house of cards. Um, I had very good friends in the human capital community that never bothered to call and check on me. Never called and said, "Thank you for speaking our truth. I couldn't do what you did, but thank you for doing that." And does it hurt? Does it suck? Absolutely. But I also realize, why am I giving them any airplay or
Hmm.
airtime in my head? I'm thinking about the ones that showed up,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
And also goes back to the conversation we had earlier. What can I do that helps me sleep at night?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I spoke about this in one of my posts a few days ago, that friends will become frenemies because self-preservation is also a thing, right?
Right.
So there are folks who told you how wonderful you are, you worked with, you had breakfast, lunch, and dinner for years, and
Right.
then dead silence.
Right.
And it's
Yep.
hard not to feel that,
Right.
right? But I also agree with you that we need to move forward from that, right? And do what we're supposed to do. People are asking me to bring you back. She's still on the air with me. I will have her. I will absolutely have her back, because I really wanted people to hear from the mouth of someone who is really going through this. What this is like and how they can get through it. Someone also wrote, Alexandra says, a family friend was forced out from FEMA. I see
Yeah.
so many green banners on the LinkedIn pages of connections.
Yeah,
Right?
Alexander, you're right. I guess if any of you are in the market to hire a former Fed, know that you are getting the whole package. Again, as someone that spent so much time in the last few years, we hired thousands upon thousands of people to work at 30th and Market Street, which is one of our main outposts for the IRS. So much good talent that was then forced out. People also that have very long careers that are maybe transitioning. Don't assume that there's any job they would not want to take. People are in a season where they're exploring and they want to do different things. So take that chance on a Fed. And you're absolutely right. The amount of talent that's out there now, I tell everyone this, including myself. I've had 5 different opportunities for jobs this year and always made it to the final round and then was always not selected. And as someone that is so used to, I've never really, God, the last few years, I haven't even had to apply for jobs. People have come to me based on my
Mhm.
reputation and my work. Is remember it's not about you. It's really about this season and to keep applying and to keep out there and keep networking. So if you all could just really make sure, don't let people continue to denigrate any federal
Mhm.
civil servant or any civil servant, period. If you hear
Mhm.
people being nasty about city government, stop. Maybe they had a negative interaction. That is not the entire city government.
Mhm.
People were upset that SEPTA had to roll back service because of trains that were not safe. That was not the workers' fault. Actually, they were doing what they needed to do,
Mhm.
safety testing. We don't like to see interruptions to services any more than our constituents do.
Mhm.
That's why I mentioned the IRS, they will fight to get the job done against any circumstance. Know that there are more good people working for government than there are the caricatures we talk about.
Mhm.
And don't confuse the average civil servant with your elected officials. They are two separate people.
People. We're two separate people. Uh, Dennis says we need Tracy back. She is Rocky Balboa.
Hi, you know what? I have to tell you, full disclosure, I'm so angry at the Kennedy Center honors this year because, first off, used to love Gloria Gaynor's "I Will Survive." Now I
Mhm.
can't listen to that anymore. And Rocky took a medal.
Mhm.
I'm like, really, Sly? Really? You're gonna kill me.
You know,
Um,
this time shows character, the character
it
of people.
does.
It really does, and it can be disappointing. So we just have to learn how to go. Okay, I see you, and it's
That's
time
right.
to move on, right? Because we play the representative of who we want people to believe we are,
That's
and
right.
then when the rubber meets the road, you see who they are and aren't. So you have to learn how to move on. You know, feel the sting from it, but then move on and say, you know what? I'm glad I learned from that.
That's
How
right.
can people contact you if they would like to
I
reach you?
would love that. So I am very prolific on LinkedIn. I think
Yes,
you
you
might have
are.
found
Yes, you
In
are.
fact, it'd be a good time to try and connect with me on
Mhm,
LinkedIn because I think I'm gonna do a video tomorrow to close out the
mhm,
year.
mhm,
People heard us mention Natasha. It's a joint friend of ours that introduced
mhm,
me to Andrea, and
mhm,
Natasha was my communications officer. So
mhm,
I'm going to try and make her proud. And
mhm,
really, I'm really interested to know, like, where is my tribe in Philadelphia? Where are
mhm,
the people that care about the city, that want to do good work for the city,
mhm,
nonprofits, philanthropies, city government.
mhm,
I think all eyes are going to be on us this year, and so we need to show what we are about.
mhm. Agreed, agreed. It's been such a pleasure. So LinkedIn is where they should find you.
Please,
Just
yes.
your name, Tracy
That's my
DeMartini.
name. Yes.
Yes, just her name. So you'll see it there. That's where you go find her. And I spent an hour. I was going down the rabbit hole. I was like, ooh. There was so much that you had to offer to
You are
people.
so sweet. I can't believe this hour just flew by.
It flew
Thank you
by.
so much.
It did not fly by.
It did.
I want you though to recognize that I learned something from you today. I learned that we can get so angry that we point fingers, and I mean I've known that for a while. But you've taught me in this hour really specifically that if we focus less on our skin tones and more on our shared commonalities, we can get much farther ahead. And that if we don't waste extra time and energy on people trying to convince folks to be something that they're not, and work with those who are really in the spaces where they want to do the work. Damn
That's
it,
right.
whether you're black, white, Indian, whatever, whatever, whatever. This year has been such a learning experience. I I'm going to transparently tell you, I cut off quite a few black. I was like, what are you? What are you saying?
Yeah,
But then I recognized it was self-preservation. It was I'm going to make this decision because I don't want to lose the income that's coming from my family. And some
right,
of them are just plain assholes who are
right.
opportunists and climbers, right? I suspect you are finding some of that in your own tribes,
All
and
the time.
all the time. And so now I'm just looking for commonalities, people who are brave enough to say, this is what it is. I may not get this opportunity over here with the money, but I'm holding on to what I know is good and right for the people, the
That's right.
collective, because at some point it's going to shift and change. It's going to shift and change.
Amen. And I have to double down on something you said. I too have cut people out, people that would assume, look like me, sound like me.
Yeah.
It is about what's in that person's heart and in their lived experience.
Hard.
Very hard.
Difficult, challenging. My husband always say, don't say hard, say challenging. And and the menopause. Add the
That is our
menopause.
superpower, though, because again, I'd like to see a man run the country while having a hot flash and not sleeping through the night. Game over. Not going to happen. There is really nothing that women in their 50s cannot accomplish.
That
We
is
should be in
true.
charge of everything.
Oh, they're telling me I'm putting in what your last name is. They can't see it.
Oh, sure.
I'm typing it in so that they can see. You should see it now. It's Di. See it? That's her last name. Di Martini is her last name. So write it up. So you can. They're gonna look you up on
Yes, please do.
LinkedIn. And if you have any leads for her, I'm actually doing the same thing on my end because we need her. We need her voice. We need, the same we've been doing for a whole bunch of other people. We need her voice and her talents to not just sit there. We need to get her voice out here so that we can gain a little bit of. Alexandra says, "Baby."
I love it.
Oh, Dennis says I'm going to try to get her. It's Traci,
Yeah. And
Dennis,
a DI.
and it's Di.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. He says he's going to try and get you and connect you with making the needed changes, and he's in a great space where he can help you to work with leadership. So
Excellent.
that's good. So get her name spelled properly, Dennis, so we can get it together. And they're saying thank you. So
Thank you. This was a
yeah.
great way to wrap up 2025. I
Isn't
wish you
it?
all a lot of love and health next year.
Yeah, I wish the same for you. And as we go into 2026 and it starts to feel darker than it is dawn, let's have more conversations around how we can continue to show up ourselves and do what needs to be done to move ourselves forward. It was such a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, you
Such a
too. This
pleasure
was
talking
lovely.
to you. And as my audience has just said, we're going to have you back.
Oh, it would be my honor. I've had
Yes,
such a lot of fun.
yes,
And
yes.
really, let's just say it again one time in 2025. Go Birds. It.
Here, and since you're local, I'd love to sit with you and Natasha. If you're putting think groups
Absolutely.
together, let's talk
We'll
about
make
what
that
is really
happen.
necessary. Yes, always
Okay.
a pleasure, Tracy. Thank you so much, my sister.
Thank you all. Have a great year. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Wasn't that awesome, y'all? That was. We needed that. We needed that. We needed that way beyond just talking to hear ourselves talk, way beyond moaning and complaining. There are always great ways to have conversations and to look for the solutions. I'm grateful that she said, listen, it's the year of the woman. If anything is going to shift and change in this country, it's going to be us. Is going to be us. And so, where's our bravery coming from? And you don't have to do it on a large scale. You don't have to do it at the federal level, but how are you doing it in your little clutches, in your families, in your communities? What does that look like for you? And how do you maintain a level of optimism when it seems to be so dark, all around us? I'm telling you, you all every day I said to my husband, I don't know if I want to be on the air. I can't do it. I can't. He said, Andrea, just keep going, keep showing up. Keep showing up. That's all you have to do is just keep showing up. And so I'm continuing to find the gravitas to say, all right, let's have a conversation over here. And the conversations have to be honest, y'all. Because to Tracy's point, there are so many horrific things happening around us. And she's talking about turning over the government, but as we continue to try and turn over the government and vote new people in, look at city council. Lots of people had to retire because they were running for mayor. Now, the people that moved into city council, the newest members of city council said, oh, well, we don't have to quit if we want to run for another office. Like, you wouldn't have been there if those folks didn't have to leave so that you could have an opportunity to get in. We don't think that way. We get in and we have this myopic thought uh, mindset about taking care of self. And if we don't get to a place where we're looking out for each other and not just self, my God, it's going to be way more difficult than you can even imagine. So let's get it together, y'all. Tomorrow is the last day of 2025. I was going to take off, but I'm staying here. Uh, whew, I'm going to stay here. I'll be on tomorrow morning. We're going to go out of 2025 together. I ask that you continue to pray. Um, I ask that you continue to pray. I ask that you continue to pray. Continue to pray. It's a lot happening, y'all. It's a lot happening. And so let's move into 2026 with intention and purpose. Today is purpose in Kwanzaa. Today is purpose. What is your purpose? Tomorrow morning, when you come on here, I want you to talk to me about, yes, we see the challenges and there are many, but what does your purpose look like moving into 2026? What would you try to do? How are you supporting and loving on each other? How are you making sure that the people around you are feeling like they're seen and heard, and you're supporting them as they're moving through their challenges so that somebody else may support you as you're moving through yours? I love you all dearly. I'm telling you, I'm not even doing a year in review. Usually by now I would have done the whole year in review 3 months at a time. I'm just not there. I'm not there because it feels performative to me at this point, right? Because there's so much, so many people have gone through so much. So many people are trying to figure out how they're going to make it the next day. That, they just want this year to end, but they're moving into 2026 with more stuff going on around them. So love on the folks, right? Do what you need to do. Stop accepting BS from folks. Just stop, right? If you know folks don't mean you any good and they're playing games and all this other stuff, every dollar we earn right now is so hard earned and hard fought for. You can't just splurge it on people who don't give a damn about you. Those days are over. Those days are over. Customer service has to be just that, customer service, right? So that's where we are. I got some errands to run this morning. I'm going to continue to spend a quiet holiday with my husband and do all the things that needs to be done to get us into this next year. May 2026 feel like it's going to be a different load for you, but I also want you to be prepared. I do not want any of us to walk into 2026 with our eyes wide shut. We can't afford to do it. And I need us to read the room, right? I need us to not pretend that we don't see what other people are going through. People who are making $200,000 and $300,000 a year are struggling. Read the room. Read the room. This episode of Mornings with Marvel is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Happy New Year's Eve Eve. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye, darlings. Ooh, child. Yes, Lord.